Let's take a trip down the Parkway. 30 plus miles of it run through Alleghany County. Going back to 1935, just imagine the time. We're in the middle of the Great Depression. There are a lot of people out of work. The Blue Ridge Parkway represented a great opportunity for those folks to find some work. And just after September 1935, over 100 folks from the Alleghany unemployment rolls showed up near here with heavy equipment to begin the Blue Ridge Parkway. But of course, the Parkway didn't happen all by itself. It was an idea that had been developed over several years as a way to create jobs and open up the country. In fact, the original plan called for it to run from Virginia to Tennessee and completely skip North Carolina. One highly influential politician, Robert Lee Doughton, born and raised in Alleghany County, had a different idea. First elected to the United States House of Representatives in 1911, he served 42 consecutive years, which is an incredible achievement in and of itself. For 18 of those years, he served as chairman of the very powerful House Committee on Ways and Means, and was the confidant of several presidents, including Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Let's go back in time for a little bit. Let's go back to 1935. Franklin Delano Roosevelt wanted to pass some New Deal legislation. The key centerpiece of that was Social Security. FDR knew that to get Social Security passed, he had to get it through the House Ways and Means Committee and through Bob Doughton. FDR went to Bob and asked him what he could do for Bob so that he could get Social Security through the House Ways and Means Committee. And Bob said, I'd like for the Appalachian Scenic Highway, the Blue Ridge Parkway as we know it today, to go through North Carolina and not Tennessee. And FDR said, and I'm paraphrasing, consider it done, my good man.
I have always heard through the family that, of course, Franklin Roosevelt was wanting Social Security passed, and that there was an agreement between he and Bob that not only would we have the Blue Ridge Parkway, but it would come through North Carolina. But I'm sure Bob wanted people in his home area to have jobs, and that's why he insisted that it be put through North Carolina and that it be built. And I think it was really something they both wanted, but they both got what they wanted by doing it. And I think originally Bob did not like Social Security. He was a hard-working farmer, and he, even when he was in Congress, he was a early to rise, early to bed type guy. And he believed in hard work. And I don't think he really thought that, but later on, he thought it was the greatest thing he ever did. And there was an effort at one time to name the Blue Ridge Parkway after he retired, the Bob Doughton Parkway. It didn't happen because Harry Bird's family thought that they did as much as he did, and they wouldn't let it go through.
The Blue Ridge Parkway is 469 miles long. Imagine being the landscape architect for that scope and that size of a project. Stanley Abbott had just graduated from Cornell University when he took on this particular job. Years later, he would tell his son, after it was completed, there's never going to be another Blue Ridge Parkway. The fundamental principle of the Blue Ridge Parkway was simplicity. As it was designed, they did not want the traveler's eye to be drawn away from any of the natural elements, and so extraordinary detail was paid to the placement of the road and the bridges and the overpasses. After you cross the North Carolina border into Alleghany County, at milepost 216.9, you soon come to Cumberland Knob Recreation Area. And this is where it all started. In 1935, the first spade of dirt was turned here at Cumberland Knob. Cumberland Knob was the first recreation area open to the public on the Parkway. Consisting of over 1,000 acres, it features numerous interpretive panels explaining the early history of the Parkway, along with water and restrooms. While the views from Cumberland Knob aren't spectacular, at least by Parkway standards, it's a great place for families to stop and let the kids stretch their legs. While visiting Cumberland Knob, you can also visit the Cumberland Knob Cemetery and learn about the strange story of Rebecca Smith Moxley. I love cemeteries. I know it sounds kind of funny to say that, but they reflect so much history. There are over 75 cemeteries along the Blue Ridge Parkway. Some are maintained by the National Park Service, and some are maintained by the families who have folks buried there. Every single Cemetery along the Blue Ridge Parkway tells the story of a family in the Blue Ridge. Headed south from Cumberland Knob at milepost 218.6, you come upon the uniquely named Fox Hunter's Paradise Overlook. The ridge we're standing on now is called Fox Hunter's Paradise. We're at about 2,800 feet in elevation. It's named not because there was an overabundance of foxes here. It was named because the acoustics are so good, the sound carries so well in these mountains, that the hunters sitting up here by the campfire could tell whether or not their hounds had cornered a fox. The National Park Service reminds us that the weather can change quickly on the Blue Ridge Parkway. In fact, if you don't like the weather right now, sunny and beautiful, 15 or 20 minutes it could change drastically. In fact, I think I just heard thunder. I think one of the hardest jobs in America might be predicting the weather on the Parkway. We're back to sunshine, so you're going to have mist, you're going to have rain, you're going to have fog, and sunshine. 12 miles south of Fox Hunter's Paradise, at milepost 230, you'll find another family-friendly recreation area called Little Glade Mill Pond. Glade Creek Mill Pond is a great place for kids to catch some bream, maybe spot some snapping turtles, some newts, watch the dragonflies play. Way back when, you couldn't go around to the corner grocery store to get your flour. In fact, there were grist mills on every little creek up and down this country. One that was here was Glade Creek Mill. The purpose of the mill pond behind me was to save some water in times of drought or when Glade Creek might run low, so that the owners of the grist mill can continue to run the water wheel to grind the flour. With the two streams at Little Glade Mill Pond, how can you not resist taking your shoes off and wading in? It's fun for kids of all ages. Continuing south on the Parkway, rain or shine, you'll find the Stone Mountain Overlook at milepost 232. Although the impressive 600-foot dome of exposed granite is located in Wilkes County, the views from the Parkway in Alleghany County are pretty impressive. Speaking of Alleghany, there was no consensus until around 1900 about what term to use to describe this area, either the Appalachians or the Alleghanies, Alleghania or Appalachia. After 1900, it was confirmed that Appalachia or the Appalachian Mountains was the term of choice. The Parkway is also a great place to birdwatch. In fact, you can see red-tailed hawks in September and October catching thermals and flying high in the sky. One place that is particularly good for watching hawks during their annual fall and spring migrations is the Mahogany Rock Overlook at milepost 235. With its fine open views into the heart of Alleghany County, serious birders annually count, on average, over 3,000 hawks, 25 bald eagles, 5 golden eagles, and 50 osprey. That's pretty impressive numbers. We're at Devil's Garden Overlook. And the reason it's called Devil's Garden is because only the devil could cultivate such a rocky piece of earth. And by the way, it's also home to a lot of rattlesnakes and copperheads and poison ivy. Bellows Gap is named for the fierce winter winds that blow through here. One time I asked an old timer, I said, "Why is it so windy and cold around here in the wintertime?" And he said, "Son, there's nothing between here and the North Pole but barbed wire." When they built this one around 1935, they built it just big enough for a horse and buggy. One of the most popular things to do on the Parkway is picnic, whether you're part of a large group or you're just a couple looking for some quiet time. At milepost 235.8, you arrive at the historic Brinegar homestead, which is listed on the National Register of Historic Places and serves as the gateway to Doughton Park. Settled by Martin Brinegar in 1885, the Brinegar homestead tells the authentic story of what it was really like for the Appalachian settlers at the end of the 19th century. Purchased for $200, Martin and his family moved into an existing cabin on the 124-acre mountain farm, and over the next 3 years, Martin began building the cabin that you can see on the site right now. The cabin features chestnut logs hewed by hand on 2 sides. After getting his neighbors to help him stack the logs, Martin chinked the logs with local clay and covered the roof with wooden shakes or shingles that he cut himself. He later added the shed addition, the spring house, and the outbuildings. The entire homestead is a model of self-reliance and shows the grit and determination of those early Appalachian settlers. After leaving the Brinegar homestead, you proceed on into Doughton Park, which at 6,000 acres is the largest recreational park on the entire parkway. It is, of course, named after Robert Doughton, the Laurel Springs native who helped ensure that the parkway was routed through North Carolina in general and Alleghany County in particular. Bob Doughton was known for a lot of different things. He was known for his size 15 shoe. He was known that he ate an apple with every single meal. And we all know about apples and keeping the doctors away. Pretty good idea, I think so. Besides containing a memorial to Farmer Bob, as he was affectionately known, Doughton Park has picnic and camping facilities, as well as over 30 miles of trails. One of those trails is Fodder Stack. I just like saying Fodder Stack. Besides it being a challenging thing to say without being misinterpreted, there's also the challenging 7.5-mile Bluff Mountain Trail, a trail that's so steep in some areas you might skin your nose going up. When you're driving along the parkway, you're going to notice a lot of flora and fauna. There's a lot of flowering trees and shrubs and wildflowers along the parkway. The trees, the dogwoods are spectacular, but I think the parkway is known more for the rhododendron and the laurel that bloom. Wildlife. Back when wildlife meant wildlife. The parkway is a great place to spot wildlife. You'll never know what you'll see. You'll see deer, wild turkey, foxes, raccoons.
Right there, see? Can you tighten? How's this tighten? I'm not sure it's... You get where you are.
One of the things the parkway invites you to do is stop, pull over. Not only enjoy the vistas, but enjoy all the different things that come along with the parkway, like the rock work, like the birds and the trees and the flowers. While in Doughton Park, make sure you visit Wildcat Rock. The views are spectacular, even on a hazy day. Leaving Wildcat Rock, you'll drive past the Bluffs Lodge. This was the very first lodge open for visitors on the entire parkway. As you drive south out of Doughton Park, you very quickly come to the infamous Ice Rock. Why infamous? Because it is an incredible visual reminder of the Herculean task it must have been to build the Blue Ridge Parkway in 1930s Appalachia. Carved from a sheer cliff, workers from the local Civilian Conservation Corps were lowered by rope from the top of the cliff with dynamite and a hand drill. Once in the appropriate place on the cliff face, each man would drill a hole in the rock and pack it with dynamite. They would then be raised back up before the dynamite blew. Accidents were not uncommon, and several Alleghany men were injured or killed. Because this work was considered extremely dangerous, men who did it received top pay, about 65 cents an hour. We're at Alligator Back Overlook, and one of the interpretive signs here talks about varmints. And varmints back then were black bear, and bobcats, and foxes, and even birds of prey that preyed on farm animals. And the pioneers at that time shot them on sight, but today they're protected because we realize that they're important parts of our environment. We're at Basin Cove Overlook, 1,500 feet below us, the home of Martin and Janie Caudle and their 14 children. You could say that Martin downsized his family because he was one of 22, 11 boys and 11 girls. You could also say that Martin's father was giving old George Washington a run for his money as father of our country. One of the most impressive things to me about the Parkway is the rock work that you'll see, the guard walls, the guardrails, and these spandrel wall bridges. They brought over Italian and Spanish stonemasons to do this work, and what impresses most anybody who sees the Parkway is not only the artistic ability and the craftsmanship that you see of these spandrel wall bridges and different things, is just the sheer volume, the weight of the rock, how impressive these rock walls and these rock structures are, and they're still in place so many years later. The Italian stonemasons have it in their DNA. We can go back to the year 142 BC, and the oldest spandrel wall bridge in Rome is an example of the technology that they still used in 1935 when they started building these bridges. As the locals assisted working on these Blue Ridge Parkway projects, they learned the craft. It's like an apprenticeship. And so they were able to carry that craft with them to other projects in this county and beyond. Almost every Alleghany family, dating back to the 1930s, has a Parkway story. It was such a positive thing for the county, locked in the really hard struggles of the Great Depression. It provided much needed work, a source of income, and it provided a place for recreation. People back then realized how important it was, just as it continues to be important today. While there's no way to accurately measure exactly how much money the Parkway still generates for the county, it's still, no doubt, significant. People from all over the world love the Blue Ridge Parkway. The strong sentiment that so many Alleghany citizens have for the Parkway is perfectly captured on a plaque at the Cumberland Knob Recreation Area. A fellow by the name of Leo Collins grew up here, close to Cumberland Knob. He worked for the Parkway for 37 years. In fact, he and his brother helped lay some of the stonework in the early days of its construction. He said that he takes a lot of pride in the Parkway, that he's a part of the Parkway, and the Parkway is a part of him, and that he loves it.